Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Terry Huang. Welcome to our Healthy Aging Dialogue series. This is the second installment of our series this spring. We'll be running this roughly on a one webinar per month basis through May. And the purpose of the series is to really get a conversation going about innovations needed in the aging space. We're particularly interested in getting perspectives from different sectors, from those who are doing research to those who are working in the field, and as well as other thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are coming up with new ideas in terms of what healthy aging might look like in the next few years. All of these insights will be gathered over the course of the dialogue series to inform innovation activities that we at the CUNY School of Public Health and Firefly Innovations might take on in designing and curating in the coming 12 to 18 months. We're particularly excited about our partnership with IU University, their Center for Social Innovation and Sustainability. We're also doing some work with their Center on Demography, and we're excited to see what we're going to learn through the various conversations and brainstorming sessions. And you know, in the coming year and the next academic year, hopefully we'll be able to design some pretty innovative and unique innovation experiences through our public health entrepreneurship platform, Firefly Innovations. So today with us are Anita Adkins and John Burns, both from Westminster Canterbury Richmond, one of the largest retirement communities in the US. John is the CEO of the organization and has had years of healthcare experience throughout the US before settling in Richmond. Anita is the development officer at the organization and has led and designed many innovation activities and initiatives at Westminster Canterbury. And so this is our chance to really listen to hands-on experiences, you know, from the ground up. And I know that Anita and her team have been experimenting with different ways of pushing the boundaries in the field. And so we have a chance today to hear from her and John what some of those experiences have been like and what they've learned from those experiences. And I think more broadly, just in terms of the industry for aging, you know, what is really cutting edge, what's on the horizon, what are the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about for, you know, not tomorrow, but in the next 5 years, 10 years. So we're really excited to get that insider industry perspective from Anita and John today. So without further ado, let me get Anita and John going. Do you guys have some slides? Yes. I think you're sharing directly.
Yes, let me get that going. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much, Terry.
Thank you, Anita and John, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, for inviting us to speak. We're really excited to be here because healthy aging is certainly one of the things that we think a lot about with what we do in our business. And I'm just really glad to see Firefly and IE putting a focus on it as well. So let me give you a quick roadmap of where we are going to go today. We want to give you a general look at what the senior living industry is and what some of the data says about the longevity economy and healthy aging. We'll talk through Westminster Canterbury's values and how that influences our physical spaces, the difference that philanthropy makes in our community, and how we've put some structure around the idea of innovation for our employees. We'll also touch on how the pandemic has changed everything for us this year, and then share some thoughts on what the future holds. And we have planned some time for questions or discussion at the end. So with that, I'll let John get us started.
All right, thank you, Anita. So let me start out by telling you a little bit about Westminster Canterbury Richmond. We are a fully licensed and accredited continuing care retirement community. As the name implies, we're located in Richmond, Virginia. We were started in 1975 through a relationship between the Episcopal churches and the Presbyterian churches in Central Virginia. They established our community. They went on to establish 5 more Westminster Canterburys in Virginia. We're not related, but we have common heritage and we are very similar, but we're all independent of each other. As Terry said at the beginning, we're currently the 12th largest nonprofit single site continuing care retirement community in the US. There are larger sites, but most all of the larger facilities are part of big for-profit chains, not single site nonprofits like we are. So how big are we? Westminster Canterbury has approximately 600 staff. We have about 825 residents. Our residents move into this community at an average age of about 82. And the average resident living here, of the 825, our average age amongst the whole community is about 86 years old. Residents on average live with us about 12 years. So you can do the math, right? They move in at 82. On average, they live to be 94. 8 of those years are in independent living. Independent is exactly what it implies. These folks are still very active, very independent. Then they might spend somewhere around 3 years in assisted living, and on average, about 12 months in the healthcare center towards the end of their life. We also on property have a fully licensed and accredited childcare center. About 60%, there's about 140 kids that come to that. That's pre-pandemic. We have about 60% of that 140 are staff children. Staff get a significant discount, and as well as there are scholarships available for families that qualify. And that program really provides a lot of intergenerational opportunities for our elders to interact with our kids and our kids to get comfortable with aging. So what do we do? Westminster Canterbury has 3 levels of care. You see that on the screen. All continuing care retirement communities, or we call ourselves Ccrcs, have 3 levels of service. The other name that you'll hear our sector called out in the broader community is a life plan community. So life plan community and CCRC are essentially the same thing. All CCRCs have 3 levels of care: independent living, assisted living, and often assisted living is memory support as well, and then nursing, skilled nursing and long-term care. Those 2 sectors are a little different, but they look the same. At Westminster Canterbury Richmond, we have additional service offerings that we provide to our residents here on campus. We have a fully licensed and accredited Medicare home health agency. We have a fully accredited hospice agency. We provide inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation. And then, as I said, also that child care center where we have lots of opportunities for residents and kids to interact. Westminster Canterbury offers all these services and amenities inside our gates and under one roof. It's a very vibrant community of independent living residents. The assisted living community is a very vibrant sub-community. And then we have 3 levels of memory support. 2 of those are in assisted living and 1 is in long-term care. And then we provide skilled nursing care as well. So CCRCs are a sector within a much larger industry called senior living, right? Senior living is really all the providers who provide any service to within the age restrictions of either 55 and older or 65 and older. The industry is trying to push the number down from 65 to 55, but really it's Medicare age and older for the most part. Senior living provides residence and services for people who either live independently or need assistance with activities of daily living or need health care specifically. So why do people consider CCRCs? The main reason, at least initially, when folks are making the decision to move to a CCRC, the main reason is their social life, the social sphere they live within is getting narrower. Their friends are aging, they're aging, their mobility might be beginning to be impaired, their friends are starting to have that. And so their social world is narrowing. And they move here and all of a sudden their social opportunities are wide open again. They have 900 best friends. It's a bit like going off to college. You have a whole new cohort of friends who are in the same condition you are. Another major driver is the need for maintenance-free living. Who really wants to mow the grass and clean the gutters when you're 80? Or if your husband or wife is doing that, you really want to think about how to get to some place where that is no longer a burden. Many seniors choose CCRCs because of what we call the Continuum of Services, meaning all the dining, housekeeping, social and recreational program offerings, transportation, and future care when it's necessary are all part of the package. You get it all here. You really don't have to leave this campus ever if you don't want to. Now people do, obviously, but it's all here. Other than acute care, hospital care, we provide everything they could need. So that's a big driver. But the real driver behind all of that, which many residents realize after they've lived here a little while, is the true value of access to healthcare when they're going to need it or when their spouse is going to need it. And I can't tell you how many residents over the years have told me that the reason they moved into a CCRC is it's a gift to their children, so that their children won't have to worry about putting them in a nursing home or them running out of money as they age. And that's really the main driver, is that peace of mind. Now, ultimately, the decision to move to a CCRC is a financial decision. And this type of lifestyle has to make financial sense because CCRCs are expensive. Typically, and it differs by where you live in the US and what type of community you're moving to, but typically there's an entrance fee, which is, you can think of it like a down payment. It's a prepayment. It's a prepaid insurance policy, essentially, that ranges from $300,000 to $700,000. So most seniors are exchanging their equity in their home for that entrance fee. And then there's a monthly fee, and the monthly fee can be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, depending again on square footage and where you live in the country. Potential residents must understand the value of the financial security of a life care guarantee. And that's what a CCRC offers that other sectors don't offer, is that what we sell is a fully licensed and regulated insurance product that provides the guarantee that the senior will never be forced to leave this community if they run out of funds. So essentially they're prepaying for their health care in that entrance fee, and they get a guarantee that they're going to be able to live here for life. So that's the big differentiator between what we do and what others do. So why innovation in senior living? And Anita is our in-house innovation expert, and so she had to sort of teach us the value of this a few years ago when she really focused her attention on innovation. Senior living is an enormous growth industry right now, and you probably know about that, the longevity economy and the aging economy. It's huge today, and it's going to triple in the next 30 years. And so, I mean, it's just, the opportunities for innovation in our sector are enormous. Anita is going to share more about the opportunity as it relates to the demographic in a few minutes. For Westminster Canterbury in our sector, we still have a little bit of time to prepare for that big growth, because the baby boomers are just starting to hit our sector, because our sector really, we don't see very many residents move in until they're 75. And we're only seeing the beginning, 65 to 70 now. In the next 5 years is when we're really going to see an enormous increase in numbers. And so that's, we're at a place where we really need to think differently. The boomers are a very different population than the generations we've seen in the past. Now, clearly, the primary opportunity is this growing demographic of seniors and the economic power that cohort is going to bring to bear on our industry. The other side of the demographics is our biggest challenge, which is the lack of workforce and the difficulty we face in attracting young people into senior care. Because let's face it, it's not the most high paying, and it's certainly not the sexiest business to get into, but it is a very stable, very healthy industry, and one that's very rewarding. The other reality is our sector has been very slow to incorporate technology. And as we try to attract young people, that's one of the challenges that we face. It's generally hard work, and comparatively to other industries, the wages are low. And then you all probably are aware of this, right? There's a problem with ageism in our society and a stigma that goes with aging and working in the aging space. And so we have a challenge there as well. At Westminster Canterbury, we believe that the innovator's challenge is that the future of senior living is focusing our industry and our sector and our organizations on healthy aging, meaning that we need to focus on how our residents can maintain the highest level of function through the rest of their life, rather than the mindset of how are we going to care for them in old age. And that's really where our sector has come from, is that we are a home for aging and we take care of people as they get old. We have to change that paradigm to we're a place where people can actively live the best life possible for every day they have remaining. Here at Westminster Canterbury, we're investing in programs and spaces that promote wellness, promote disease prevention, and quality of life. Our strategic challenge, and this is true for most nonprofit Ccrcs, is that our facilities, meaning our plant and equipment, are very old. And these legacy assets weren't built to support wellness and healthy aging, but are quite honestly, they're pretty institutional. And we've tried to pretty them up, but at the end of the day, they're not what they need to be. And this challenge is compounded by the fact that all of us nonprofits, and that's the predominant subgroup within this industry, are not the nonprofit organizations are now in this new economy world are competing with brand new, mostly for-profit facilities being developed. And they're putting a product out there that's very different, very much more focused on the image of wellness. And so they may not have the programs and services behind it, because the nonprofits and the for-profits have very different missions and very different motives. But we, as the nonprofit side of the economy, we have to reinvent ourselves with a true focus on how we provide healthy aging to those that live here, so that they continue to see this as the right avenue. Historically, also, just one last thing, historically, CCRC operators have been very slow to adopt technology because our customers have always been the last to adopt technology. And that's beginning to change with the boomers. We're seeing people move in with a lot of technology and a lot of tech capabilities and a hunger for that. And the other critical challenge and opportunity and threat that we face in the senior living world and in the CCRC world specifically is our industry faces very real reimbursement uncertainty. And what I mean by that is the future of Medicare and Medicaid and the disappearance of pensions, which were something this industry was built around, was a fixed income for life, is changing as we transition with the boomers to a 401k retirement incomes. That's a major unknown, is how that's going to play out. And as a sector, we're going to have to get innovative around creating revenue opportunities for our organizations. And then the other big question mark is the future of long-term care insurance, which many of our seniors have, but they're a difficult product to buy in this current situation, and we don't see that getting better. So I just said a lot, and I'm going to stop now. We, Westminster Canterbury, we are a work in process. We have a long way to go. We're focusing our resources on enhancing our residents' ability to live life fully, and we're investing in wellness. And that was part of our innovation strategies that we've been through for the last couple of years. So now I'm going to turn it over to Anita, and she can share with you a little more about our organization and our innovation so far.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about some other reasons kind of externally that we would want to think about healthy aging. And I know you're here because you care about it, but I want to give you some data around it. So we know that people are living longer. Their overall life expectancy has increased. But what the data shows is that people are living more of those years in poor health. So the number of years that a person can expect to have good health has increased by 6.5 years between 1990 and 2019. But in all but 6 of the countries that they studied, that number is less than the overall increase in life expectancy. So we know that there's still a big opportunity to close the gap in the quality of life and from a cost of care standpoint. There's also a huge economic opportunity in serving these older adults. This is some data from AARP. In the United States, the economic activity of the 50+ population is 8.3 trillion. So while they're only 35% of our population, they contribute 40% of our GDP today. And that number is estimated to rise to 28.2 trillion in 2050. That's a huge number, and we're only talking about the US with that, and that we know that that opportunity exists all around the world, in addition to what we see there. So to put that in perspective, the impact of the 50+ cohort just in the US is equivalent to the 3rd largest economy in the world, behind the US and China. And then in addition to those dollars, the 50+ population is the greatest contributor to charity. It was about 97 billion in 2018. I'm going to talk in a minute about how philanthropy makes a really big difference in our business. And then this generation also offers a lot of unpaid activities like volunteering, caregiving for children and adults, especially, in places where we might have multiple generations all living in one household. So those are just a few of the reasons that we know that we need to encourage healthy aging. So we're going to walk through some of the things we're doing to change our environments at Westminster Canterbury, and then I'm going to take you through the details of how we've put structure around innovation for our employees. So John, I'm going to turn it back to you. And you're on mute.
By the end of the pandemic, I'll remember to do that. So as we think strategically about our future and the strategic investments that we need to make as an organization that support healthy aging, we go to our corporate values. That's how we make decisions. And we are a very mission-oriented and value-based organization. We value leadership. So our future is to be a leader in providing services to seniors. And we understand that innovation is critical to the long-term viability of our mission. And innovation means finding new ways to maintain the highest level of function possible despite aging and illness. We value commitment, and that translates into doing what's right today and tomorrow, doing what's right today for today and tomorrow's seniors, while at the same time remaining focused that we're going to need to continue to be flexible and adapt to the future seniors, the seniors of 5 and 10 years from now. And then lastly, stewardship means that we need to ensure that our strategic investments return an adequate value, both in terms of sales velocity, which is important, and even more importantly, the right wellness outcomes for our residents. So as Westminster Canterbury considers the strategic investments required for healthy aging, we recognize that we got to build an environment that promotes healthy aging, encourages engagement and participation, and incorporates the latest wellness and fitness innovations into our design. We think of wellness in terms of 7 or 8 different facets. Interfaith spiritual wellness, is incredibly important to this organization, both our residents, our staff, and it's really at the heart of our mission. As we began our journey to renew our campus with an emphasis on healthy aging, we started with our mission, and we created an entirely new interfaith worship and education space. We moved away from what you see at the top, a legacy chapel. It's a bit, well, it's very small, it's very Christian, and a space where it was nearly impossible to utilize any technology and really a tough space for any kind of engagement or education. What we built is the newer space that you see at the bottom. It's a much larger interfaith space with multiple gathering spaces. The space is highly tech enabled, and it's much more centrally located on our campus, so it's available to everyone. This space opened in September, but it has had limited availability to be used so far because of the pandemic. But we're eager to get it open and begin to really invite our community back together. Another key component of our healthy aging transition is dining. Dining represents the most social aspect of our community, and social wellness is a huge part of what keeps our seniors young. We're converting all of our old dining rooms, which you see here, right? Which are very limited in terms of venue options. They're limited in terms of culinary flexibility, and they provide really pretty limited choice to our residents. And so we're transitioning to the next space, which, and it's not built yet. So what we're going to show you next, go to the next slide, Anita. This is a project that's just about to kick off. And so this, what we're showing you here is a dining experience that has multiple venues, has built-in endless culinary flexibility, really designed by our culinarians and our chef and his sous chefs and our director who's a chef, to really bring a lot of culinary art to what we do. And there'll be engagement spaces. You'll see there's a restaurant, there's a coffee bar, a cocktail bar, fine dining, private dining rooms, flexible space for groups and catered events, indoor, outdoor dining. So there'll be opportunities for people really to engage with each other socially in any form that they find the most comfortable. But at the end of the day, it's about choice, because choice drives engagement, and engagement is what people need to remain healthy. Construction on this project is slated to start in July. So now I'm going to shift and talk about fitness, aquatics, wellness, spa, right? Well, Westminster Canterbury is making a major investment in new design. They'll provide our residents, the residents of today and our future residents, with the best possible experience going forward. The picture you see here on the left is the extent of our current fitness area. It's nice, but it's small, has virtually no natural light, and is very limited in terms of the capability to provide new programming, group exercise, and activities. So we started our innovation journey by looking for inspiration. And we looked for inspiration in best-in-class wellness facilities, aquatic centers, fitness facilities, and spa. And so we went to facilities, we pulled from design, our design experts, and we came up with a lot of imagery that we thought fit the bill for what our future should look like. These are just but a few of the inspirational images we pulled as we developed our program. We know it's important that these wellness activities become prominent in our community and available to everyone. And so connection between existing space and new spaces was vital. As you can see on this image, that all of our new resident wellness activity space will be immediately connected to that new dining area that I just showed you. That'll be renovated space. As we move down the corridor, you see an integration between existing spaces and new spaces We're going to make it very attractive. We're working through the details on the interior design and furniture now. It'll be one of the things we learned through the pandemic is it needs to be easy to clean. It needs to be easy to sanitize. And we need to be very flexible as it relates to engaging through technology. And so we've learned a lot, and we'll be pushing a lot of our new learnings into these new spaces. But as you can see here, we've got multi-purpose areas, theaters, meditation space, a beautiful spa and salon space. All of that is connected to what we call our new vibrant living center. So the lobby in the next slide will show you this draws right from the inspiration images that I showed you at the beginning, but this will become the new hub of healthy aging in our community. This is on the ground level. There's a lower level which connects to some apartments, and all of this connects to the fitness facility, the aquatics facility, the salon, and a number of resident engagement spaces that are connected to this. But this will really be the focal point of our community in the future. We have other centers. We have centers for creative living, and we have a center. We have a couple other areas like that on campus, but this will be the new focal point. The image you see on the left is our new aquatic center. And on the right, you get a sense, it's a terrible image and I apologize for that, but you get a sense of what our new fitness facility will look like, right? There'll be a 1/16 of a mile track around a very large open exercise and fitness space. And we're really looking forward to having a space that will just really draw people in. Our residents are eager, they're hungry for it. Many of them are members at other high-end clubs and are eager to bring that home, because we can tailor what we do specifically and specially to the needs and functions of older adults. And our trainers work specifically with seniors. And so we're really excited about this project. We're going for permitting on this project in the September timeframe, and we expect construction to start in early 22. So we're eager for this. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Anita, and she can take us a little further into the Westminster Canterbury's innovation journey.
Yeah, thank you. So in addition to our corporation, we have a separate foundation that supports the work that Westminster Canterbury does. It raises around $3.5 to $5 million annually, and some of our teammates are also with us this afternoon and have walked the innovation journey with us so far. So the charitable approach that we bring to everything we've been describing is grounded in our financial aid program for low-income seniors. That's what we call our fellowship program. So we serve around 100 residents annually with housing, meals, medical care, and then they have access to everything else that our organization provides. So all of the wellness, cultural arts, excellent healthcare. We have a lot of robust therapy programs in art, music, horticulture, and exercise, and everything else we have to offer. So in this fellowship program, we have the largest and most comprehensive financial aid program of its kind for an organization like ours, so a single site retirement community in the whole United States. So fellowship has been our priority, but then gifts to the foundation also support a lot of these other areas like performing arts and healthcare, because we want to make sure that they're available to all of our residents, not just those who might be able to afford to pay an extra fee for it. And then our foundation also supports our workforce with scholarships and other programs. So in the past 5 years, our foundation has gotten very intentional about how can the foundation specifically support innovation throughout the organization. And when we talk about innovation, we define it in a couple of ways. It's a word that a lot of people throw around, but we think about it either as trying something new for the first time ever. You know, that's less common because a lot of people have tried a lot of good ideas. But it might mean doing something new in your organization for the first time, whether you're borrowing it from other organizations in your industry, or even learning something from a totally different type of company. And it could even be as simple as just taking a fresh look at something that you're already doing. I think it's important to note that innovation doesn't automatically translate to technology. Sometimes it feels like we think all we need is another app or a device, but we can also get innovative with our processes, our programs, and by looking at our existing resources. For us, as much as we promote innovation, we also have to balance it with our operations. Our doors never close. We have to make sure that we're maintaining a certain level of operations above all else. And so innovation has to exist within that context for us. But our donors make a huge charitable difference, and their gifts to the foundation have allowed the organization to try a lot of new things throughout its 45-year history. And so 5 years ago, the foundation designed an innovation grants program. We have some unrestricted gifts that donors give so that we can support our areas of greatest need. And we created a process to allow employees to bring us their ideas for solving problems. It was a very defined process, and we started getting a lot of very well researched and good ideas, but we needed to invest in helping our staff think differently and put more structure and rigor behind those good ideas. So we started looking for ways to teach innovation. So to do that, we brought in an external company called Venture Hive. They do innovation incubators and education, and they trained both our managers and then put a group of multidisciplinary group of about 25 staff through an extensive process that lasted around 6 months. So we did a 10-month training program, or a 10-session training program, where our employees were taught to think strategically and with more of a for-profit business mindset. We had everyone divided into 4 project groups, which I'll tell you about a couple of those in a minute. But it was a very deliberate curriculum. So we focused on process and steps to foster innovation, test your ideas, prove whether they're valid or not. And in each session, there were lessons on a really big variety of topics, everything from identifying objectives and key results, defining key performance indicators, understanding your customer, sales, strategic partnerships, lots of different topics. And our groups also conducted customer interviews and did research so that they could solve the problems and challenges presented by their projects. Then they compiled all of that information and their learnings into pitch deck presentations that we shared with each other in each session, because learning to effectively communicate their ideas was a really big takeaway of this program. Some of the challenges that we hit while we were going through this process is that not everybody is comfortable thinking this way. Some of us are more comfortable with that uncomfortable process and kind of growing. And we were being asked to rethink, question, and challenge ourselves all throughout the process. But we really ended up coming out with some fabulous results. So let me just walk you through a couple of the projects and how they progressed to where we are today. So we had a project called Fellowship Outreach, and it grew out of strategic planning and a formal community needs assessment. We knew we wanted to expand that fellowship program I told you about. So we provide financial aid for seniors in need, but we're limited by the number of apartments available on our campus, and it's a very expensive program. So we have to have enough charitable funding if we wanted to grow it. So we started thinking about other ways that we could expand it. So we did a study of the greatest needs of seniors in our region, and we said, what are their barriers to healthy aging? And what we learned is that the needs in the Richmond community were housing, transportation and walkability, aging in place and access to services, and chronic disease management. So we wanted to think of ways that made sense for Westminster Canterbury to respond to those needs using our expertise. So we went through this innovation process, And we put ourselves through the thinking exercise and realized that the 4 traditional elements of our fellowship program tied really closely to the 4 findings from the assessment. And so traditional fellowship is housing, meals, medical care, and vital living programming. So we said, how can we use our resources to impact those things? So we did a lot of work to explore partnerships with other community organizations, and we ended up partnering with Project Homes, providing funding and volunteers to build ramps on the home of people who are kind of underserved in the greater Richmond community, and that helped improve their mobility and their access. And then we also started to volunteer at a nearby lower income independent living senior community, where we can take our staff experts to provide health screenings and programming in art, music, and exercise. So for a pretty small investment of dollars, we created ways of meeting the needs of seniors, extended our outreach to this into the community, and we also gave our staff a lot of engagement just using these existing resources in new and different ways. One of our other 4 projects was our wellness team. They've known for years that we were working toward the Vital Living Center that John described. And so during the incubator, they were charged with figuring out how to create a space and program that would support this idea of whole person wellness for seniors. So they analyzed, they did a lot of customer interviews, and they researched what other organizations were doing. And so now today, as we're at kind of at the end of the design process, I spoke with our wellness manager, and she realizes that all of the work that they did during the innovation incubator is now coming to fruition in this new space. The words that you see here are the themes that came out of their research and interviews, and they can draw the connections between those concepts and what they'll have in this new space. Being able to encourage socialization, provide education, help our residents be proactive and determine what's a priority for them. And we're going to have this wonderful destination where they can come together to do that. Also, our wellness manager has the skills that she learned during the process that can help in their day-to-day work. So as our team pivoted over the past year during the pandemic, our wellness team changed from doing this in-person instruction that you see to figuring out ways that they could offer digital programming where filming fitness classes that residents could do in their apartments, offering Zoom classes and other kind of independent fitness challenges so that people could stay active even while we were fairly isolated due to the pandemic. So that brings us to the past year, where nearly overnight, we had to completely redesign most of our program and service offerings. And we quite literally did that just about overnight. On March 16th, we had the first confirmed case of COVID-19 in long-term care in Virginia due to a resident who had traveled home from Florida. And so overnight, we had 300 residents and 25 employees who had to go into self-quarantine due to potentially being exposed to this resident. So they weren't leaving campus, our dining rooms closed, and we were delivering 3 meals a day. And for the first few weeks, those changes were coming so quickly that we had to just get really tactical and focused on all of the details and new processes. But once we got through that, we were able to get innovative and creative. And the only way that we could foster innovation at that point is because we had so much structure around our operational, tactical, just really critical needs. So everything was delegated. We had a structure for quick decision making. And once those emergent needs were handled, the rest of us could step back and say, okay, how can we be innovative in each of our areas and really think about the mental health and wellness of our residents? But if it weren't for that structure, we wouldn't have been able to think beyond the tactical because we had to make sure that our business was moving forward in a time of complete uncertainty. So we have a lot of examples of that. Since we're getting short on time, I won't go into all of those, but I'll just share like one example is in communications. We had so much that we had to communicate. on a day-to-day basis. So we filtered everything through one central point and started doing daily live video updates with John and with other staff that we live streamed on our in-house television station. We had the ability to do that for a long time prior to the pandemic, but we rarely used it. And we've really relied on that as a point of connection and making sure our families and everyone can stay up to date and receive all the same information at the same time. A few other examples you see here on the slide are performing arts offerings. We have this beautiful 335-seat theater that in a typical year would offer 50 performances that has sat mostly empty. But instead, we held outdoor performances where our residents could be, socially distant. We ran performances live streamed on our in-house television station. So we've really been able to find some different ways to be creative and continue those connections, even in the face of something that, none of us had ever experienced before. So I think with that, I'm gonna, we have some ideas on the future of healthy aging and senior living, and I have a couple of resources for you. Our websites here. We've also done 2 symposiums on a lot of what we talked about today, exploring healthy aging and innovation for the longevity economy. And all of those resources are out on the livelifewellrva.org website. So you're welcome to explore those if you want to hear more. And then a few other resources for you on those websites. John, did you have any comments before we turn it to Terry and questions?
No, I think we can go to the questions. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time.
Hey, well, thank you so much for speaking, Anita and John. I really appreciate you coming on to join us and to provide this perspective on the work that you're doing. And coming from public health, you don't necessarily get to learn about how these businesses are being run, even though it's so essential to public health systems. And so it's very, very important to get this type of insight. And it's great to learn about the type of advancements that you have made within your organization. And I'm just looking forward to getting to some of our questions. We had many questions during the presentation. And we only have a few minutes left to go, so I'm just going to get to some right here. And I'm going to start with Brad Meacham's question. And he was asking a little bit about how you are actually kind of differentiating, categorizing different types of seniors that you're working with based on different generations, and also thinking about the type of research that's associated with these different types of seniors. And also, but it was also making me think about the work that you did with Venture Hive and how they came in and worked with you on developing measurements and KPIs. And so I thought that was a good opportunity to connect both of these points and ask about how you are really measuring your outcomes. And I'm looking at this both in 3 different ways, both in a business, innovation, and also in health. And so I was wondering if you could give a little bit of insight into that.
Well, I'll start. Anita, you can jump in. What the biggest KPI we look at, and being, from my seat, is sales velocity and average age of moving in. If we're creating an environment where people want to move in younger and spend more years living in our community, that's the best outcome we can hope for. We want people to live here for more than 12 years. We'd like people to move in their 60s and be here for 25 years. That's a better model than having people move in older and spend less time in independent living. There are other indicators, and the wellness team is really the ones who track engagement and get a very good understanding of just what sort of impact we're making on people's quality of life, their functional independence, if you will, through the course of their time with us. At the end of the day, the other important driver for us is we want to keep our residents out of the nursing home for as many years as possible, for as long as possible. The best possible outcome is that people stay independent until the day they die, and they never have to take advantage of our health system. Our health system is expensive to operate. like all health systems. And so if we can keep people healthy, my business wins, my residents win, and my staff win. And so that's really the motive behind this, besides the fact it's the right thing to do, is from a business standpoint, all of those incentives align. And so we have a long way to go to understand how to manage the data. We're not a very data-driven industry and sector yet, but that's where we're headed, is to really be able to understand from a metric standpoint, how are we performing in terms of overall independence through the lifespan. Anita, you want to add anything?
Yeah, the only other things I would add is, as a nonprofit, we're very mission driven. And so we're always looking at, from the business perspective, balancing the financial performance and the operational efficiencies with the fact that, some of the things that we always are truing back to is we want to ensure the best life possible for our residents. That's part of our foundation mission. And, our staff are going every day by our corporate vision, which is improving the lives of those we serve every day. So as we're bringing in innovation and making ourselves get better at measuring, we're always kind of balancing those two sides of it. And I think that's one of the things that makes our industry special, and that we can kind of balance the business and the mission.
Certainly. Thank you. There's actually a few questions that popped up in the chat regarding, how people are going to financially keep themselves in a place like Westminster Canterbury Richmond, when it's so essential to their development and the rest of their lives. And however, sometimes there are circumstances that don't allow them to stay there, to enter there, to be inside of the system. And you highlighted how charity is a really, really important way to drive this forward. And it's also a really important way to address this issue in the industry as a whole, as you've shown. And so I'm wondering if there are other points maybe to add on to how you're able to retain these folks and able to really bring in more folks. And that relates also to your KPI about how many people are coming into the doors here. And so I was just wondering if you could add on a little bit to that.
Well, so to your point, I mean, benevolence, bringing people in who either can't pay or can only pay a portion of the entrance fee or a portion of their monthly fee. That's how we started. That's what we've always done. We have a budgeted expectation that we're going to have 110 people out of our 825 are going to live here on some form of scholarship or benevolence. And that's a big, it's a $4.5 million investment that our foundation makes and our donors make to helping seniors in Richmond who otherwise could never live here. But that's limited both in terms of the financial cost. There's only so much we can do, and we only have a set number of apartments. We can only take in so many people here. Thus, as we explored this strategically, we said, how can we touch more people for the same money? Or how can we spread what we do well to seniors who can't ever live here, because we're capped in terms of our financial potential and our housing potential. And so the fellowship outreach is that vehicle where we can take much of what seniors value about living here, we can take it to where they live and touch a lot of seniors for a fraction of the cost, and support agencies that are doing that work and not duplicate what they're doing, but really add value to what they're doing. Because what we do is limited, and I tell my team this all the time. Most organizations like ours haven't been proactive enough to protect themselves from the downsides of the economy, and they're not able to do it the way we do it. But this organization's been proactive, and we're in a good place to be able to continue to provide benevolence into the future. And so we want to work from that position of strength and touch as many seniors as we can.
I think the other reality is not everybody wants to live in a community like this. It's very appealing to some people, but for some it isn't. And so being able to take what we learn and know from here and share that as we kind of have our own little incubator here where we can try within our community and see how that can translate out in the broader community. That's another thing that our industry can do to help in that space.
And Alejandro, one last point I'd make, and Anita reminded me that I was going to say this, as a sector, we have to begin to diversify our product mix. What we do is very expensive. It's very rich in terms of services. And so it's very expensive to sell and operate. Our sector has to get better at providing what I would call a light chassis model, right? A very stripped down, essential services only, and focus on quality of life, focus on what really keeps people young at heart, and not the institutional housing product per se. We've not done that yet. And the for-profit side of our sector is better about that, about really thinking about that. But their motives are different than ours. But that's, I think, one of the innovation challenges is how do we create a different product that is more accessible, I guess.
Certainly. And thank you so much for answering these questions. And thank you so much for your time. Again, I really appreciate it. And you know, there are actually many other questions here that we don't have the time for. However, what I'm going to do is follow up with these folks and see if they'd like to reach out to you. And also, if you're able to share the slide deck of what you presented, I'd love to share that with the participants of this program as well. They would love to see that. And I know that there was some very, very valuable information on that slide deck that I would love to ask more questions about as well, especially when it comes to attracting a workforce around younger people, incorporating technology, addressing ageism. These are challenges that really, really need major solutions to across so many different sectors within this industry. So I'm just going to pass it off to Terry. Dr. Huang.
Thank you, Alessandro, and thank you everyone for joining us today. A big thank you to Anita and John for a wonderful presentation. This was really informative. I learned so much, even though I've heard you, Anita, talk about your work so many times. I still learned a ton today. And I think just thinking about, as you know, what John said, I mean, you know, taking the best practice, which is what you have, and scaling up to kind of a community-wide, a community-centric approach, that indeed, I think, is a real challenge and deserves a lot of thought, you know, in terms of how we can innovate. So I just want to remind everybody to stay engaged with us. You can follow us on our website. Alessandro will put Firefly Innovation's web link into the chat. Do take a look at our website periodically. We always have new programs coming up. Within this Healthy Aging Dialogue series, our next webinar will be on March 10th, featuring Liana Ferreira, who directs the Fraunhofer Institute in Porto, Portugal. Fraunhofer Institute Portugal has been doing a lot of innovative R&D in the space of healthy aging. So we look forward to getting a sense of all the exciting work that is happening over there. Feel free to connect with us on social media platforms. LinkedIn is my favorite. And so that's definitely a great way to stay connected with us. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here today. And thank you again to our two great presenters. And we will stay in good touch. If you have good ideas about healthy aging and where we can go innovation-wise, please shoot us an email, drop us a note. We love to hear from you. If you know of other organizations or entrepreneurs out there doing amazing work, feel free to share that information with us as well. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you in March at our next webinar.
Thank you all so much.
We will be sharing the video link, the recording, as well as the slides via the Center for Systems and Community Design website. So Alessandro, you can put that link into the chat as well.
Yes, everybody can check out this session and past sessions on the Firefly Innovations website, and that will be updated on our Center for Systems Community Design website as well for the CSCD. And thank you all so much again for joining.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, people.
Bye-bye.